Thank you to everyone for coming to our quiz session. Today we are more focused on impact and sustainability, and we have 8 great funders coming to pitch. Now, before starting, I want to really thank you and introducing our panelists of investors, starting from Charlotte Baumer. Charlotte, if you want to give a short intro yourself.
Hi, everyone. Super nice to meet you. I'm Charlotte, originally from Munich, live in Berlin now. I'm a mechanical engineer by background, spent the last years in consultancy, doing operations, and now at Power Ventures. And we are an early stage B2B focused fund, doing everything around pre-seed, seed, everywhere in Europe. And we have a very strong focus on everything that's enterprise software SaaS and climate tech as well. So very excited to be here today.
Thank you, Charlotte. Let's move on to the second one. Claire Sherin, Principal Investment at True Global.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here today. As mentioned, I'm Claire. I work on the investment team at True, which is a consumer and retail technology focused investment fund and innovation consultancy. So we invest in pre-seed through Series A across the UK, Europe, and the US, broadly into businesses working at the intersection of the changing consumer behaviors. So yeah, prior to that, I was in growth stage investing. So delighted to be part of the event today.
Hi, I'm Unzube Ifodike. Great to be here. I'm an investor, angel investor actually, an entrepreneur. Work with several startups, more recently Audio Mob Moon Hub, helping to close their rounds as a lead advisor. I actually met Max in my previous role where I was an investment manager for a large corporate accelerator that had several hundred companies within our portfolio. Studied computer science for my first and second degrees before switching onto the finance world. If anyone wants to reach out, please feel free to connect on LinkedIn. Thank you.
Thank you, Zuba. I'm going to move to the next one. Jazil, your surname is very long.
Max, thank you.
Long for me. So please introduce yourself. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. My internet cut out for a bit, so apologies for jumping in the end. But just a bit quick background to it myself. I'm currently a senior investment associate for a pledge fund that is focused on Series A, investing into climate tech and food and ag companies. Privately, I'm an angel investor primarily focused on women-led companies and diverse founder-led companies, broadly covering sector agnostic, but broadly focused on emerging market opportunities. I'm quite excited to be here today and hear the founders that are pitching today.
I'm going to move into the last one, but not the least. Gabriel, I hope I'm okay. Tocha, venture capital analyst at Big Start Venture. So let's start with our great founders. So we'd like to introduce Natalie, co-founder, CEO of Kibo. Natalie, please, the stage is all yours.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Natalie, one of the co-founders at Kibo. We craft sustainable shoes using upcycled and planet-friendly materials. The shoe business is, in fact, extremely polluting. Not only do we overproduce, we throw out 300 million pairs of shoes every single year. It's highly plastic intensive, and most of the time the supply chains are not transparent with forced labor in place. The name Kibo actually means hope in Japanese. We want to give waste new hope and life second chances. I personally come from a marketing background, working with luxury and consumer products for over 15 years. Simon is the second generation of a global footwear manufacturing and trading company that's been around for over 5 decades. And John, our business development head, is the third generation of a 100-year-old textile dynasty. He also co-founded many successful startups. Our materials predominantly comprises of leather trimmings that are taken from factory and tannery floors, combined with recycled plastic bottles and other sustainable materials like recycled cotton, recycled rubber. On top of that, we reuse 95% of the water in our production, which is very important because in fashion, the water waste is one of the most polluting angle to the pollution. And the footwear industry is actually growing very, very rapidly, driven by sneakers. In fact, there is a term called sneakerization. And in the sustainable sneaker space, we're looking at double-digit growth in the next 10 years. Since launch of our consumer brand, we have enjoyed organic growth. We've bootstrapped along the way since 2020, and we are omni-channel in both online and offline, expanding rapidly to Singapore, Canada this year, eventually to Australia, Japan, and also in China by 2024. However, there's still a huge gap, and that is in the service industry. We've seen a lot of pain in the long wearability. The staff are often on their feet for over 10 hours a day. There is very little options for hotel staff, F&B industry, and the retail sector. And on top of that, slips and falls account for the over 30% of injuries caused. Now, our edge is that we have reliable suppliers that we have established over the years. Not only are they comfortable, they're durable, but we also weave in the sustainable angle to it, and that makes us the first in the market in Asia. Our shoes are slip and oil resistant with global certifications. Not only it prevents injuries, it actually lowers costs for companies for the downtime and also the insurance cost. We also want to develop a tread sensor, and how it works is that it detects the wearability of the shoes. So before it gets flat like a tire, we can replace the shoes using our sustainable materials and then prevent the slips and falls from that. Everything is measurable in terms of our materials because it's traceable, as well as the wearability of the shoes. For the first part of our launch since 2020, we've been focusing on our consumer brand. Since last year, we worked with the Rosewood Hotel Group and prototype our workwear. Since then, they have provided very good feedback on both quality and durability and have placed 2 orders. We're now in discussion with one of the largest distributor in Japan to carry our workwear to their clients. And eventually we do want to expand in this space and dominate the hospitality industry with our footwear. We are expanding into plant-based leather, also patenting our leather for wider application and explore the end-of-life circular program. By 2023, our goal is to become carbon neutral through our materials as well as our supply chains. And currently, we are looking to raise approximately $1 million to develop our R&D as well as expanding our team and business. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Charlotte, if you want to start.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much, Natalie, for the presentation. And definitely looks like a super interesting topic. My first question or sort of feedback on because you're producing these sneakers, right? That's how I understood it. So you're sourcing material. Can you maybe walk me through a bit sort of how you source from the suppliers and then how you also manufacture? Because you probably need like process and sort of production side in place, or like also the abilities to do that. So can you walk me a bit through that?
I'll let Simon take this.
Yeah, okay. So in terms of researching for or selecting our partners for suppliers, then we'll look in obviously their ability and quality, their setup, and also their transparency, and also any ethical certifications that they may have. So to be quite frank, a lot of the resources that we use have been leveraged from my 50s family's experience. So a lot of them are long-term partners. So that's how we get the raw materials. And then in terms of the manufacturing facility, again, it's been a partner for our family business. And then so they, typically, as a startup, one of the challenges is getting the MOQs. And then so that is an issue that we've managed to overcome. With leveraging our connections and resources. And so that does that answer the question? Or is there anything you would like to elaborate?
Well, understood so far. The second question or point that I had regarding the patent, what you want to patent is sort of the way you sort of mix the materials together to form this leather, or what exactly do you want to patent?
So I think the biggest challenge with not virgin leather is that it's not breathable. So a lot of the synthetic leather out there, the downside is that it's not breathable, and that's very important for shoes. We're working with a professor here in Hong Kong and in China on a technology that makes the leather, synthetic leather, breathable using a solvent-free formula. So we're working on that development and hopefully able to commercialize it as well.
Interesting. Cool. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Gabriel.
Well, Natalie, thank you very much for the presentation. I had one question, or at least that I would like to understand a little bit better. You mentioned the traceability aspect of how does that work? If you could elaborate a little bit.
So in terms of like the material sources, we'll select all the ones with accreditations. So whether, if it's a recycled product, then there's a standard called the GRS. And then also in terms of like, the ethical practices that will either require like internationally recognized audits, for example, like BSCI, or in instances where, they are small facilities where they don't have the resources to get those accreditations, we will send our own people to go and do a sort of like an internal audit and to make sure everything, the key points are in place. So that is how we ensure like our supply chain is clean from child labor, which is very important for us, or bonded labor, and also their raw material sources as well.
And how do you plan on, or how does that work in terms of communicating that to the end user?
That's particularly important as we expand into a B2B approach. As we work with five-star hotel groups and F&B chains, these are the certifications that they are actually looking for before they start working with you. And in terms of the consumer product level, we do have that communicated throughout our own channels, retail, as well as social media.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel. Claire.
Thanks again, Natalie, for taking us through that. I think just the key question for me is really, if you look at success for the business, is your ambition to own kind of the sustainable sneaker space, or really to own the kind of workwear space for sneakers? How do you think about the two?
I think currently, I think when we started the business, we were looking at the consumer space. But since working with the Rosewood Hotel last year, we noticed there is a huge gap in the service industry. So our focus right now is to tap into this market and become the first in the market in Asia. And it doesn't mean that I will shut down the consumer end of it. It's just the focus and expansion will be more towards the B2B angle.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Claire. Jazeel.
Thanks, Max. And Natalie, thanks for going through this presentation. Super helpful. I was just kind of going through your deck. I just to take a step back, just understand, like, when you think about your ideal customer, who would you say your solution is solving for specifically?
Right now, the biggest pain point in the service industry is comfort. Like the comfort, they have to be on their feet for over 10 plus hours daily. And we've interviewed at least 20 outlets, channels, and they haven't found a solution. And that really affects their work. It affects their work in terms of safety. It also affects their performance. On top of that, they throw out shoes on average every 2 months. And if you multiply that, that's a lot of waste. So we do want to tackle all that by providing better materials, better production. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks again. I think it's really smart also to kind of go the B2B approach, especially targeting the service industry. I'd love to kind of, if you give me a bit of context around how you are thinking through what's the word I'm looking for, partnerships and business development. I noticed that John is in charge of global business development, but I'd love to kind of hear your thesis around business development and building out those partnerships.
We actually have a very strong partner in Japan. He runs hospitality groups. He's very well connected in distribution. So these are the partners that we are looking for. Even though we don't know the language there, it's a huge market, especially in services. We want to leverage these connections and then build a distributor approach to new markets. Does that
Awesome.
answer your question? Yeah.
It does. Thank you. That's all for me, Max. Thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you, Jasir. Zubin, it's your time.
Hi, great presentation. Thank you, Natalie. I don't really have any deep questions, just curious to know how in a post-COVID work environment, you might think through office workers that don't necessarily want to wear the formal, painful shoes and are looking to wear more casual but smart formal wear.
What sort of industries are you referring to?
So I'm thinking of the regular office worker who might work in a bank and have to wear formal shoes each day, but they would rather wear something slightly more comfortable to get to the office, for instance.
Right, that's definitely something we are also exploring after we have, finalized the product range, because the workwear shoes might be too heavy for someone like someone sitting behind a desk. So it really depends on the industry, and then we have suppliers and partners to actually cater for the needs. So the non-slip, for example, the outsole won't be applicable to most desk job workers. But we are also looking into hospitals. So because of the safety requirements and certifications that we have, we are actually eligible to serve hospital staff. So it's also something we're exploring with Taiwanese partners there. So the market is huge and vast.
Gotcha. And you touched on it in the last response, but with respect to business development, what are your thoughts around influencer marketing?
We use that for our consumer brand, and it's been quite successful. We've bootstrapped along the way. To be honest, we haven't fundraised. Hence, it's gonna need a little bit more capital for this to be very impactful. However, for the service industry that we are going to target, the influencers would be, I guess, people from the industry. If I have people who actually tell us who don't know how painful it is to be on a plane for 20 hours wearing high heels, then that actually brings to light why is it important to switch. And on top of that, the environmental impacts.
Thank you, Zubin. I'm moving to the next one. Reis Mara, co-founder, marketer, Horeca Experiences Sales, passionate. Clever8. Rares, please.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for the introduction, Max.
Welcome.
So, hello, everyone. My name is Raresh, and I am co-founder of Clever8. So, let me introduce you to the story. Let's imagine Luigi. He has an Italian restaurant. Everything goes well. He cooks food every day to meet his customers. But sometimes, in the end of the day, he has to throw away some portions of delicious food. Doesn't sound that bad, but the real problem is that are many more in the same situation as Luigi. And the sad truth is that in Europe, every year we waste 89 million tons of food, and 40% of it is coming from retail and Horeca. quite sad. So that's why we come up with a solution, and our solution is Cleverit. Cleverit is helping restaurants to transform surplus food into profit by selling it to our users through our mobile app. In this way, everybody wins. Restaurants don't have waste, users get good food at discounted prices, and the planet gets less polluted and without waste. To validate the idea, we created a Facebook group that at the moment has more than 10,000 members and 35 restaurants as partners. Moving on to our users, in order for them to get the food, they have to enter the mobile app, they select their favorite store, they reserve the meal, and in the given time chosen by the restaurant, they have to go to the restaurant and pick up the food straight from there. Our numbers so far in the last 8 months since we started, we saved more than 10,000 meals, and that is equal with 5 tons of food and 30k euros from our partners, money and food that otherwise would end up in the trash. We have competition, of course, in Romania, Munch and Bonap, and the market leader is Too Good To Go, but we aim to do it differently. We will innovate the market. We are focused on the community to engage them a lot in our movement. And the main differentiator is to introduce delivery only by the bikes. Our business model is simple. We charge a commission on each meal sold throughout our app, 50%. We focus right now, our main focus is Eastern Europe with 700,000 food locals, and our obtainable market by 2024 is 7,000 food locals. Our roadmap for this year is to launch our app in June and to finish the year with 450 partners and 70k MRR. Because we are a sustainable company, we also have an impact goal. So our goal for this year is to reduce 150,000 kilograms of CO2 emissions by saving 60 tons of food in alignment with the EU taxonomy, with the third environmental goal, transition to a circular economy, and the 12.3 SDG. Our team is created by I and Marius, two co-founders with marketing experience. Razvan, our CTO, he has startup experience in the last couple of years. He's a senior developer, and our advisor, Vlad Mocanu, a very active entrepreneur here in Romania and a book writer. In the end, I want to announce that from June on, we are looking to raise our second round of investment. And for the moment, I am more than happy to connect and get you know. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Rares. Claire, do you mind?
No, of course. Yeah, I think the key question is maybe something that you touched on around the bikes and delivery. I guess, do you anticipate owning that as a differentiator in the market, or will you partner with someone to do the delivery piece? And I guess, how does it work at the moment?
Right now, we are in talks with a Romanian startup. They do all kinds of deliveries only with the bikes, but we want to use also as one of our differentiator, because all other players in the market that do the same as us, they don't offer delivery. So you as a user, you have to walk to the restaurant and pick up your food. But we want to make it more accessible for everybody in order to have less waste, because that one is the main goal in the end.
Mm-hmm. And I guess feeding on from that, the other piece you touched on was community. How are you building out that community at the moment? You obviously mentioned the Facebook group, but then moving those people onto the app and building that element of virality.
All right, so for the moment, our community is on the Facebook group because the app is not launched yet, but we post all the offers on the Facebook group. So in this way, it's quite easy to engage all the people that is around the Facebook group. But after we launch the app, we will put them on the app, and with the app features, we want to make them more engaged. For example, we will introduce gamification. where people can see how much food they saved and how much CO2 they reduced. And we want to create physical events with chefs in Romania to show them how to cook in a more sustainable way, because also a lot of waste is coming from every person in their houses. So yes, this is how we want to engage them, by creating live events and involving them a lot in our growing process.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Jose.
Yeah, for sure. My question really is, what would you say is the unique selling point for Clever Eats, and how are you communicating that? How is that informing your strategy moving forward?
All right, Gareth. So first of all, a big advantage for us is that Eastern Europe is a very empty market. There are not so many players here, and the market is huge. So, and then, as I mentioned before, we focus on this kind of differentiators from others to help them deliver the food. That one is one of the differentiators. And then with the Features app, we focus a lot in building the community. And this is how we also got our users right now, because we try to talk with the people. We spoke with them in a very friendly way. This is how we achieved our 11,000 members right now without investing in marketing. So we try to get very well along with the users and the community as well.
That's very helpful. Thanks, Raresh. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your questions.
Charlotte.
Yes, thank you so much for walking us through your startup. Very cool space, and I think the sort of food industry, especially regarding impact and emissions, is one of the biggest ones. Question around monetization. So what are sort of your revenue streams? Who do you monetize? I haven't 100% understood that one yet.
Yes, we charge restaurants and food locals, all the industry, on each meal that they post on our app. We will take in average 50% of that meal. So for the moment, we make about €1.50 per day per partner. So
Okay.
that's how it works.
Okay, understood. And the second question.
We have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, just the second question that I had was around the sort of impact goals that you set for yourself, which I think is also super interesting. How do you calculate that? Is that really, do you take an average sort of value for emissions per ton of food? Because food has sort of, depending on meat or veggies, it has different sort of emission values. So how do you sort of calculate that?
Actually, right now we are using a formula that we found in a study of Organization of Agriculture and Food from Europe. They say that 1 kilogram of food that is wasted is equal with 2.5 kilograms of CO2. But you're right, and the bad part of this formula is that at least we have a starting point, but there are not so many studies for the moment that says exactly what kind of food is creating that CO2 emissions. We are not entirely sure if it's meat or dairy products or pastries. So basically right now we are doing research. Yeah. We found a study from 2022, but it's more related to the fish industry. So every day we check on new studies if something will come up. For the moment, yes, it's very in the beginning.
Makes sense. No, but makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Zuba, you want to take this?
First of all, thank you for the presentation on Clever Eat. There's a company, one of my former portfolio companies, IntelliDigest. I don't know if you've come across them. There might be some synergies. They have a couple of products and services, but the one in particular I'm thinking about is their hardware that's meant to help with that whole food network, the food system. So I'll send a link and you can check it out. If you want an intro, let me know. But otherwise, I can't think of any other things to say around what you're doing. You should probably try and get to COP27 if that isn't on your radar already for November this year.
I don't know about it.
I'll send you a link. But yeah,
perfect,
I met Dr. Kanu at COP26 in Edinburgh and Glasgow last year. But
amazing. Yeah, I'm really looking forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zuba. Gabriel.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I just have one. I guess it's question. It's a little bit related to what other people have asked already, but it's more related to. I'm not sure I understood. Aside from you'll deliver exclusively by bikes, right? But
Yes.
how do you plan on or how do you compare with like Too Good To Go, for instance? I'm from Portugal, and here Too Good To Go is the guys are all over. And if it's this bike differentiator and the community as well, how do you see that in terms of your customer acquisition cost, and how do you plan on navigating that, which I assume it will be a fairly expensive marketing exercise?
Yes, you are very right about it, and especially in the Western Europe, the market is for the moment it's a bit difficult because yes, there is Too Good To Go. That's why our focus right now is for Eastern European market, because it's also a big market and it's unexplored yet. And we want to have that differentiator for Eastern European market. And basically our main goal right now is to grow as fast as we can before Too Good To Go does that. And we have an advantage because we are in talks with Too Good To Go. We keep them updated. They don't want to join Eastern Europe so soon because they have some other plans with more into the West, in USA, Canada, and those countries bigger than Eastern Europe. So yes, basically we are using the same model as Too Good To Go, but we adjust it slightly more by adding the delivery in Eastern Europe for the next couple of next 2 years. Yeah.
Perfectly understood. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Rares. Thank you very much. Let me move to the next one. Corrado Accardi, Gempax. Corrado, it's all you.
So hi, I'm Corrado, the CEO and co-founder of Gempax. We are London-based and we aim to make marine electric mobility affordable for professional boat users in emerging markets. Professional boat users will be water taxi operators, fishermen, and so on. And we're starting from Indonesia as a first market. So not everyone knows that one marine outboard motor can pollute as much as over 20 cars over 1 year. And the problems that affected change in emerging markets so far have been, on one side, the lack of port charging infrastructure, and then the technology limitations and the unaffordable costs. Now, we come into the market as a technology integrator and a full stack solution. So we create the charging infrastructure in the ports, so we don't have to rely on third parties. We take the existing legacy fossil fuel boats and we convert them to 100% electric by taking the existing outboard motor and retrofitting it to electric, or replacing it altogether with a new one, and then adding the batteries. As I was saying, we convert to 100% electric, and then with the charging infrastructure, we have also the IoT software with the geolocalization to increase safety while at sea. So where we stand at the moment, we've installed 2 charging stations in Indonesia, and we have 4 boat prototypes. 2 of them are with retrofitted motors, 2 of them are with new motors. Now, these latter ones are interesting because we did them with the Asian Development Bank, and following the successful trial, they've already said that they want to order more than 100 boats from us. The business model centers around 2 main revenue streams. One is the one-off sale of the boat conversions or the new boats, and the other one is the annual recurring revenue from selling the energy, and then the fees for the software, for the geolocalization services, and so on. The market opportunity is clear. Marine electric mobility is now where photovoltaics were 20 years ago, and electric mobility was 15 years ago. And we selected Indonesia because it's the largest market with 800,000 vessels of the right target size and type. And then there is the proximity with the Philippines and other very large markets. We're a B2B business, and the main buyers for us are the boat owners, which I'll discuss in the next slides, development banks like ADB, and the local governments. And for the latter 2, the ESG, CSR, and then the targets to reduce emissions are the main elements for which they will buy in bulk, providing grants and subsidies, or in some cases like the local governments, offering free issue to local coastal communities the boats. The benefits for the owners are clear in that we are working with microfinance institutions locally to offer the transition to electricity at zero upfront cost, so that when you take the current running cost with gasoline and you put the energy first and then the repayment of the loan, the interest and our fees, you are still leaving a gap for additional disposable income that's for people that are earning $3,000 to $8,000 a year can be a very sizable one. And clearly for larger boats, that saving can be even higher. So compared to the competition, we move in a different space, meaning we are full stack technology integrators, so asset lights, and we target professional users in emerging markets. Competitors are instead generally manufacturers of boats or motors, and they are more for the recreational markets and especially for higher markets. Different scenarios for the P&L are really based on two main parameters. One is the units sold. The other one is the mix of new versus conversions. Clearly, the more new we will sell, the higher the unit cost that we can charge. We have a very strong team capable of delivering all of this. So we cover with expertise renewables, energy, telecoms, mechanical engineering, naval architecture, recharging infrastructure, and also the local knowledge in Indonesia. We're looking for $500,000 at the moment, 400,000 pounds, and we are already SCIS and EIS compliant for advanced assurance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Corrado. Jazeel, would you like?
I don't have any additive questions at this point, so I can pass. Thank you, Max. But I think, Corrado, this is a very helpful solution, and I'm quite excited to see how you continue to innovate the industry.
Claire.
Yeah, thanks for a fantastic presentation. I guess if you look forward to the next year or so, I guess how long until you other products, I don't know if they're launched in market at the moment, but it would be good to understand those timelines and also sort of the split of sales from a fit out perspective versus the license fee you mentioned, and when that license fee starts to become the majority of the sales.
Well, so starting from the last one, the license fee will be always a smaller part of sales, because the one-off sales will always be the ones that are the highest value. So from where we stand now, the prototypes are ready. So we are ready effectively to go. We're talking about some potentially large orders to be received. And so the way it works from let's say from the day that we receive the investment, it will take us, we will move to Indonesia, the chief engineer, myself, and the CTO. And so it will take about up to 5 months to start sales. And then at that point, we'll hit the ground running. And with ADB ordering potentially over 100 boats shortly, that could be a big help. And at that point, we might need to find other ways also to support the working capital. Although there will be a number of instances, especially at the beginning, where we will be able to work with negative working capital.
And I guess just from a governmental perspective, you mentioned that it might be possible to go through that as a route to market. Is it likely that they would choose one provider to fit out all their boats, or will they, choose you and perhaps one of your competitors? How do the dynamics work?
Yeah, so we will try as much as we can to create, let's say, local content, both in terms of the hardware and in terms of the job creations. So we will work initially, especially with local shipyards. And so what happens, for example, with the Ministry of Agriculture and Fishing there, is that every year or second year, they order about 3,000 boats, then they give free issue to local coastal communities. In this case, working with the local shipyards, we could get to up to 2,000 of those boats because they are within the size parameters that we are looking at. And so basically that is the main thing, and that can become a recurring one. And what we have heard so far from the government is that they are not aware of any other business model like ours that's entering Indonesia at the moment. And for a country with 17,000 islands, it's good to hear them talking like that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Charlotte, do you have any question?
Yes, thank you, Corrado, for the presentation. One question around sort of scalability was one of the things that sort of popped into my head at the beginning. So especially sort of retrofitting, but also implementing the charging stations. That is obviously, there's an effort behind that. How long does that take? How do you approach this? And also regarding sort of sales and scaling that, do you have sort of, I guess, groups and communities and boat rentals that can refer you, but would love to understand a bit better this whole scalability aspect. Yes.
Okay. So on the charging infrastructure, in the team slides, you saw one which was for the charging infrastructure. So we in our pre-seed or family and friends, as you prefer to call it, we had an Italian company that produces electric and electronic equipment, and that's invested in the company. And so the son of the owner, who's the specialist for the charging infrastructure within the company, is in our management team. And so they have already AI applied to the charging infrastructure, so that it will go, without going into too much detail, there will be master stations that then can have 25 columns under them. So effectively, with a system that will cost installed less than $100,000, we can serve 100 boats every night or every day. Yeah. So that is one thing in terms of scalability. When I said $25,000 on average, the pricing for the new boats, those prices, they already includes a pro quota of the cost of the charging infrastructure. So effectively, we will get it paid straight away on the day that we sell the boats. In terms of the scalability, those two new boats made for ADB, they were made with motors from Torqeedo, German global leader for electric outboard motors. So we already know that ADB will want Torqeedo as the motors for the boats they will serve. So from a scalability perspective, by spreading with local shipyards, for example, the works restoration or new boats initially for the hulls, having Torqeedo as a partner on the production of the outboard motors, solar panels, batteries, they are really not a problem to source around. The software is clearly scalable. And so at that point, once we fundraise and we can start bringing on board local staff that we can train, and part of our being in Indonesia will be to train the local staff, then at that point the scalability will really become not a problem. It will be more a problem to go into the different ports, but at that point in the different ports we will work, generally there are cooperatives in those ports. And so working with the cooperatives and having the microfinance wants the cooperatives because then they can cross-collateralize the microloans. So they remove the risk on the debt defaults. The cooperatives, they get returns from our activity with them. And so at that point, it's basically a win-win for everyone.
Got it. Yeah, okay. No, super cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Gabriel.
Yeah, thank you, Carl, for the presentation. I had no idea this was an issue, but thanks for shedding light on the 20 cars. Now, my question was a little bit around so you're selling or you're planning to sell directly to the boat owners, right? And to these customers, you're selling mostly the kits, right? The 25,000.
Well, the conversion kits or the new motors, but basically it's the whole conversion.
Right. Let's take the conversion kit. So it's $25,000, right?
Now, well, so that's 25,000. It's an average. Okay, it depends. Clearly, there will be boats which will be 6 meters long, and others the water taxi is 12 meters long, and there will be some that will be converted. So a cost that will range from maybe $5,000 to $20,000 for the larger ones, whereas the new ones will be from about $15,000 for the smaller ones to $50,000. So let's say that the $25,000 is pretty much an average of what we will sell.
All right. I guess because I don't really know much about how much does it, how long is the life cycle of a boat. But my question is, with the initial investment, like, right, the 25,000. Let's take the average, and then you mentioned an average cost saving of around $1,000, right? So that would be, not counting with the very important benefits of having an electric motor, but just in terms of monetary costs, that would take like 25 years to get back an investment. How does that compare with?
Yeah. No? Okay. Well, thanks for the question. So the way that it's structured, I don't know if you remember how the graph was placed, but there was the current cost using gasoline. And so the way that it was built was take the energy cost, add the repayment of the loan, the payment of interest, our fees for the software and so on, and there you leave that one. So effectively, the $1,000 are the additional disposable income after they've repaid everything else. So once they repay in 5 years, and consider war in Ukraine, clearly it's creating a problem with the cost of gasoline. So there will be a moment when those costs are reflected in the cost per liter, that the savings will be even higher. And so at that point, after the 5 years, when the loan has been repaid, and so there is not more that part of the loan repayment and the interest, they will be left, instead of 1,000, with $5,000 difference. So it's a life-changing opportunity for these persons.
All right, perfectly got it. Thanks for the clarification.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel. Zuber, do you have any question?
Yes, a couple. I'm a fan of the economy. Wanted to just check on your funding. You said it's SEIS Advanced Assurance, or EIS Advanced Assurance, right?
Yes.
What's the structure for that operation for Genpax UK in relation to the emerging market entities?
Yeah. I think you are aware of the problems with the CIS and EIS if you ask this question. So there was a discussion clearly ongoing with HMRC on that. The way that it will be structured will be, we will always work with local partners, but for the British entity, we will have to retain at least 90% of the ownership of any local subsidiaries. So we basically, Indonesia will have a local, probably based in Singapore, Genpax, say Indonesia, and which will then operate in joint ventures with local partners. Then there will be a Genpax Philippines, which will be, again, a subsidiary with at least 90% owned by Genpax UK, working with joint ventures locally. So, and the way that it was sold, let's say, to the HMRC to obtain the advanced compliance, advanced assurance, was to say that by retaining the IP and any potential patents coming in the future with the UK entity, then at that point it makes sense to have the possibility to maintain that one as the global center. But then when from Southeast Asia, we expand, for example, on Lake Victoria in Africa, where there are tens of thousands of boats that can be converted to electric, and nobody's doing it at the moment, clearly that will be, it will make much more sense to have it in London than have it somewhere else.
Gotcha. And of the $500,000 you're looking for? You said you have flexible funding structures. What is that? Equity, convertibles, debt?
Well, so let's say at the moment, the way that we're looking at the first orders is microfinance institutions in Indonesia. They can disburse after a contract is signed. So the initial boats will be purchased, for example, by ADB or by other entities. And generally, they will put a grant or a subsidy on the value. So say that the value is 100, ADB and the others can get to 50 or more. And so the other 50 is what will be given by the microfinance institutions. And so with those combined, we can get also deposits. So effectively, we can work, and that's the negative working capital reference I made before, where we can get them some of the money and then use it with some of the payments which will be in arrears after delivery by the local shipyards and so on. We can basically work having less needs for internal for internal money. And the other thing is that by having the charging infrastructure paid pro quota by the boats, that can become also asset-backed finance to then have debt raised on that once it starts generating money. And so the local banks will be able to see how the revenues are generated and how those are amortized through the revenues.
Okay, so the DFIs and the microfinance institutions would finance the boats, while the $500,000 is for financing OPEX, and you have
well, yeah, the $500,000 to begin with will be effectively, we need to move to Indonesia, create the entity locally, open an office, have access to a small warehouse, and start having anyway some capital for the initial procurement cycle. So we can't just rely on the local shipyards to put the money up front. We will need to give them some money. We will need to, for example, install the first charging infrastructure in the first ports before we have sold boats. So that's where those $500,000 come in. But then as soon as we start selling boats and we get the money back for the charging infrastructure, we can expand that one in the same port or go into another port.
Understood. And final question around financing. Of that amount, how much has been committed? Well, two-part question. How much has been committed, if at all? And is there any grant funding that you're targeting?
Grant funding, short answer for the UK, no, because with the focus in Southeast Asia, at the moment, there's not much that we can access. And on the commitments, we don't have commitments, but discussions, and an angel investor who's already said it is very keen to invest and bring a syndicate with him. So but he will not cover the whole amount.
And how much would that syndicate be? Have they soft committed for?
Well, it's not committed yet, but I believe they can reach about £150,000, and there might be someone else for another 50,000.
We move to the next one. Yuval Aviel, Autonomous Pivot. Yuval, the stage is all yours.
Yes, so I'm Yuval Aviel, CEO of Autonomous Pivot. We are a startup from Israel that is creating innovative sensors and bringing artificial intelligence to row crop farming industry in order to reduce the use of precious resources in agriculture while at the same time increasing farmers' profitability. It's a pretty elaborated space, so let's say it makes things very simple. Let's focus on those three crops to begin with: corn, beans, and potatoes. Altogether, it's more than 60% of what the US creates, and let's focus on the US. You have the numbers that have been produced in 2021. I don't know if it's even possible to encompass these numbers in mind, 300 millions of tons of corn. How does it look like? Anyway, it feeds much more of the US, and it's actually only portion of that goes to humans. The majority goes to feed animals and to create energy. Let's get even more focused, and the majority of those crops are coming from an area that is called the Midwest in the US. It's called the breadbasket of the world. And you can see here there's an underground aquifer. It's called the Ogallala Aquifer. And the way it works there is that if you dig 100 meters or 50 meters in the soil, there is water. And so you just have to dig a well and to pump the water out. And the way you use this water is with these irrigation machines that are called center pivots. And there are hundreds of thousands of them in the US, and this enables irrigation and farming in arid or semi-arid areas. And that's what enables the production of so much food and successful agriculture in the US and elsewhere. Actually, whatever I'm saying is true for the majority of the world. I just want us to be focused on that. So what's the problem? The problem is that farmers are using far more the resources that they need. What are the resources? It's water, fertilizers, and chemicals. And why are they using more than what they need? It's for mainly two reasons. First, they don't know how much they need. And second, they really hate to lose, like all of us. We all hate to lose. We want to get the most out of anything. And in that case, the most out of the field or the most yield that we can get from that field, be it corn, soybean, or potatoes. And so if you don't irrigate enough, you get water stress. The water stress is manifests itself in less yield, and same for nutrient stress or disease stress. Anything manifests itself eventually in less yield. So the typical farmer would just irrigate more than it needs, fertigate more than it needs, and put a lot of chemicals. And it's not because he's not well educated, it's because there's really no way to know exactly how much needed. And there are a lot of attempts to solve this problem. And we want to solve it holistically with a couple of sensors that we do. So we want to solve for irrigation, fertilizers, and crop health. And we create mobile sensors for those for this purpose. The most innovative sensor is a ground-penetrating radar. It's a sensor that senses the soil moisture without touching the soil. It moves with a pivot and reads in hundreds of locations in the field, and this is to compare to the current technology, which is one location in the field. So it is much better estimation of the soil moisture. The second one is still in the work. It's not operational yet, but it's a nitrogen sensor that senses the nutrients in the leaves themselves and will enable us to give a more managed nutrients to the field. The third one is coming into operation this year, and this is a simple camera that just detect any kind of disease or pests in the field, and so we can give the chemicals and spray pesticides or whatever we want in a more managed way, and not just spray as they spray today. And all that information is going and uploaded to the cloud, where we enhance it with more information, and then it is crunched by our AI engine, and then eventually it goes to the app for the farmer and also to the pivot itself, so the pivot can be commanded by the program. So it's all almost an autonomous farming. All this system is sold for $2,300 or $2,300 per year per system. There are no recurring costs. It's a service. It's actually a hardware as a service. So the farmer, if he doesn't like, he can just to summarize, we have this, we cover irrigation with one sensor that is sensing the soil moisture. We cover the nutrient issue with another experimental yet sensor that is sensing the chlorophyll in the leaves. And we cover the crop health issue with cameras that are detecting the diseases. There are also some other sensors that I'm not mentioning here, like a rain bucket sensor, pressure sensor, GPS, temperature sensor, all that is including the package, including aerial images. So it's a very comprehensive package for the farmer that enables us actually to collect as much information as possible from the field and to have an agronomic snapshot of that field, and gives the optimal prescriptions of all of water, nutrient, and chemicals to that field. In terms of sales, we are 5 years old now. This is the 5th year, and we are growing exponentially, as you can see here. We started 5 years ago with one system, and last year we grew 5 times. We had 150 systems. We are growing now to maybe it will be less than 600. I think it will be 500. Anyway, we're growing again 3 times this year, at least 3 times, if not more. And so I think we came up with a very interesting package that the farmer sees the value, and it is saving tons of water. We just, in terms of its impact, we had a compared field of 30 of we had 30 fields, 15 or half of them used our system and half didn't. And in those fields, we save 15% of irrigation compared to the other field. And if we multiply that to the 150 field that we used last year, that were using autonomous pivot last year, this is saving 1 billion gallons of water. And now this is going to be, of course, multiplied 4 times this year. So we are actually saving billions of gallons of water every year. And this is amazing. And it is just the water. And now we are going into crop protection and nutrients. And we're going to save that as also all those precious resources or inputs, like the farmer called them. And so there's a very, very important impact aspect or sustainable angle of what we're doing. Yes, I think this is it. I'll stop here. Thank you. I think I passed my 5 minutes. So
thank you, Yuval. Thank you so much. Charlotte, I think you have to go in a little bit, as you said. So please, if you want to take this.
Yes, thank you, Yuval, for the presentation. Interesting product. I have a lot of questions, but maybe the most important one around the software, AI, and I think sort of the computer vision behind it, because you need to sort of, with the cameras and sensors, recognize patterns and then be able to sort of use a lot of data as well to make that model really good. So how do you sort of want to do that, especially at the beginning when there's not going to be a lot of data available to train the models?
Yeah, this is actually why only now this year, after we have 150 fields, we can start and offer the services of crop protection and detection. And the way we attack it is that we identify 2 specific problems, in this case in corn, bean, and potatoes, early blight in potatoes and Japanese beetle, it's called in corn. We found those issues to be common and prevalent in the field that we are on, and so we have not enough, but we have data to start with, and also we can always enhance it with manual work.
Thank you, Charles. Claire.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. I think the key question for me is, what are you replacing as an existing solution for crop growers?
So the question is actually what's the competition, and I must say that as far as we see, there is not really a good competition. I have a slide on the competition, but due to the shortness of time, I skipped it, because it's really no one is giving this comprehensive view of the field as we do. There is a lot of different companies, a lot of probes companies that giving you the soil moisture data, but just giving the soil moisture. In the nutrients, there's none that is successfully doing that. In the crop protection, there is a collaboration, Prospera and Valley, maybe you heard about that. but it's not working. We don't see it working. So we are not replacing anything. We are actually really bringing something new to the market. It's good and bad. There's a lot of market education to make. We get sometimes pushback by the price, which is high compared to a single sensor, but then we offer quite a lot of features.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Jazil.
Awesome. Thank you, Max. Thank you, Yuval. Appreciate you kind of sharing about Jetpacks with us. I'd love to kind of just get your thoughts on, for your round, what are the kinds of investors that you're looking for? Do you have a focus on the profile of investors that would be a fit for your round?
Yeah. So we are, it's a $6 million round, and we are mainly looking for a leader now. Although there are a couple, but we want to be able to select. We will get anyone that is investing $500,000 and north of that and more. Ideally, we would like a strategic investor that would be connected to maybe agro distributors in some market with a lot of irrigation pivots. Currently, we are focused on the Midwest, but we know for sure there's a huge market in Brazil and Australia, and even in Africa and Tanzania. We had some and Egypt. We know, and actually we have an installation in Egypt, and so on. So yeah, it's better to have strategic investors.
Awesome, that's super helpful. Thank you, Yuval. And I have quite a few investment in my network, so I'm more than happy to think through. If any of them are helpful, I can connect with you post this to try and connect you to them.
Yeah, I'll be glad to follow up on that.
Thank you, Jazil. Gabriel.
Yeah, thanks, Yuval, for the presentation. I have some questions. Maybe I didn't understand it. What exactly are you selling? So in terms of hardware, is it just the sensors, or is it the whole pivot?
No, we don't sell the pivot. The pivot is $80,000 piece, and it's there are 5 companies I think that creating pivots and selling them. We are not even selling the hardware. We are selling a service, and the hardware is part of the service. And the package, it's hard to give it all in 5 minutes, but it's basically giving, if I have to choose what to say, it's irrigation prescriptions and imagery of the crops.
Got it. And you said it was $2,300 per year per system, right? And how, I'm trying to understand what is your target client, and how many would your ideal target client need to purchase from you to have it feasible?
Yeah, so it's currently 1 system per field, and the target client, currently we are not working anymore with farmers. We're working with channels. Our ideal client would be a channel that could be either a co-op of farmers or pivot dealer or crop consulting company, or anything that working with farmers and row crop growers, and would sell those to basically for each pivot we would like to sell one system.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel. Zuber, if you want to close.
Sure, just a quick one for me. I don't know if you've come across the TASA irrigation method, Yuval.
Never heard of that.
Worth checking out. Senior strategy reminds me of TASA. It's one of the older African irrigation systems, but made popular in Niger. Yeah, it sounds like a great system you're using, and yeah, wish you all the best with it.
Okay, I'll look it up. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, there is a question, who is the target user in the US agriculture is increasingly corporate rather than family owned. So we find out that in corn and soybean, it is still mostly family owned. In potatoes, it's really getting, because it's more complicated to grow potatoes, it's more and more corporates, large corporates. And the target is, like I said, any corporate could be a target, and also co-op and so on. We don't work direct to farmers anymore.
Thank you, Yuval. Okay, I think we can move to the next one. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let me introduce Shana Vidam, Endangered Wildlife. Shana, please, it's all you.
So, good evening. My name is Shana Gavron, and I'm here to tell you about my company, Endangered Wildlife. We are an award-winning ESG SaaS company that is trying to contribute towards solving the climate crisis by using technology to demonstrate the positive impact of biodiversity. Now, we have two core products. The first one is a Biodiversity Evaluator. This is an exciting, disruptive new solution that's coming to the market that allows its users to calculate the financial value of their impact directly through biodiversity. Our second product is the Environmental Footprint Calculator, which is an affordable entry point for individual users and professional users to begin to assess and effectively reduce their negative environmental impact through behavioral change. Now, we have already raised 2 years ago 735,000 euros, which has allowed us to start building up the company and building the software. And we're now looking for our seed round of up to 1.5 million euros, which is divided into smaller tranches, effectively to complete the development of the software and the machine learning, to really then drive and scale our revenues, and essentially to have an exponential environmental impact. So our team, we are a passionate team who are all driven by the company's mission and objectives. We've come together with a diverse set of skills, and before I continue, I invite you to link with me through this QR code if you're watching. And essentially, we've got backgrounds in finance, economics, statistics, marketing, IT, and economics. Personally, I've been working on this since 2005. I have a double master's in finance, got a master's in wildlife management, currently finishing a master's in wildlife biology and conservation, and come with over 15 years experience in the investment banking sector. So I come from a diverse background and brought together a diverse concept and team. So what's the big issue? There has been an explosion in interest in sustainability and ESG reporting and measurements. And a significant amount of focus has been placed onto carbon measurement, carbon reporting, carbon as a solution for climate change. But there's one key thing we're all missing here, is that carbon is only a small part of the whole story. We will never succeed in solving the climate crisis if we cannot solve the biodiversity crisis first. But the issue is biodiversity is difficult to understand, it's difficult to measure, it's difficult to value. And without being able to do any of this, it becomes a huge challenge to even try to incorporate biodiversity into any decision making. So this is where we come in. To solve this challenge, we are developing global products that effectively directly meet this ESG reporting requirements. In particular, we are equipping people with the tools to be able to directly integrate biodiversity into the decision-making process, eliminating that whole issue of confusion and misunderstanding by being able to understand a measure that everyone can literally understand, and that's money. So the Biodiversity Evaluator becomes the first and only machine learning software that allows you to calculate a financial value of biodiversity. What's that mean? That effectively means that biodiversity as an individual species or a group of species can easily be included into the decision-making process, into the financial reporting process, and even into the whole concept of an impact return on investment. Our software is already in development. We have developed using advanced algorithms that are based on verifiable, internally developed methodologies that combine pure statistics with pure finance, environmental economics, and environmental statistics based on credible and auditable data. Our method and software are designed to be suitable literally for any species, anywhere, and used by anyone. In the meantime, though, in order to start to gain traction and momentum, we are already offering the EFC as a SaaS. This is effectively an affordable, high margin, low-hanging fruit for the company that makes the environmental behavioral assessment accessible to individuals and companies of all sizes. It's simple, easy to use, and we are continually adding new specialities to our EFC range. So far, we've made significant progress over the last 12 months. To give you a bit of a demonstration, we've done almost 120 valuations, 8 taxonomic groups. We've got an industry recognition. We've formed some strong partnerships. We've become an official supporter of the UN Global Compact. We're part of the TNFD Forum. Last year, at the end of the year, we won an Impact Award. And last week, it was announced that we've been nominated for the Earthshot Prize 2022. Now, the ESG software market literally has taken off, and it's expected that by 2026, it should reach 1 billion euros, and that's a conservative estimate. We ourselves are actually creating a new niche in this market, and if I could be a little bit egotistical, I would hope to say that we can actually push the expected growth to be higher than expected, because we haven't been accounted for. And effectively, considering the sort of service we provide, we can cater for all stakeholders, from the B2B, B2G, B2C, and everything else in between that. And we can cater for investors, and we can cater also for NGOs. Already, we are receiving strong interest from sectors such as tech, real estate, infrastructure, agriculture, finance, the reforestation. The interest exists, so we are very confident in terms of our demand for the product. And the moment we are able to convert from our current consulting model into our SaaS model, when the software is developed, we will then be able to really scale up significantly. And we're looking at a minimum of 75,000 valuations a year within the next 5 years. We also have future plans, for example, to continuously release new specialty EFCs, to set up API accesses to our biodiversity database. We plan to develop our own internal biodiversity valuation certification body. And then, of course, there is a an institutional asset class that I developed back in 2005, which is something that we plan to launch when the market is ready for that. So we are a visionary and truly disruptive company that really wants to make a significant impact for all species on Earth, and that actually also includes humanity. And we are looking for investors to join us on this journey. And on that, I would like to thank you for your attention and invite you to ask me any questions.
Thank you very much, Anna. Claire, do you want to take this?
Yeah, thank you so much for that background. I guess it would be good just to understand sort of timelines from here, both from a development perspective and what your key milestones are over the next 12 months, and I guess a bit more about the route to market as well.
Okay, so at the moment, we've been working with the consulting basis. We've already signed our initial clients on that, who have already indicated their intention to become recurring clients and annually recurring clients. So now what we're looking at is actually building a stronger machine learning team so that we can really focus on that. At the moment, the software, that demo that you saw in that video, we've got aesthetic value at about a 90% automated state. We are working on improving our carbon value calculator. We've got a proof of concept for the machine learning. We've already developed or reduced our third-party dependency by developing a side software internally. So the main thing is over the next I'd say more like an 18-month period to really build on the machine learning, to train it up, to start getting it working so that we can actually start to offer it as a SaaS. Now, why I said the 18 months, that's quite an important mark, because the TNFD and Align from EU have come up with a statement that they are busy working on all the policies and putting that in place. Essentially, they're targeting the second half of 2023. What we want to be is in the position that once all those policies are in place and people are being, companies, financial institutions, everyone are being told, okay, you've got to start reporting on biodiversity. Where do they look? Who do they go to? We're here, we can offer you the service straight away, and we'll be ready to take the market. And that's why I look at it at the 18-month mark. And essentially from the EFC side is to just keep developing new specialities. We've had interest in our latest one, which is a workplace personnel EFC. It's not the standard sort of carbon calculator. It's based on ISO 14001 and the GRI principles. And essentially, for example, because it's a behavioral change, 12 categories, 96 questions, even down to a point, for example, does your company have a sustainability policy? It's a good way for the company also to then say, if everyone is saying no, they should actually be making people aware of the fact that there is a policy there. So it's a way to really shift the behavior into a better corporate culture. So that's the plan, is we want to really push the EFC for now, while we build the evaluator software, while we start building our name and reputation through the consulting, and once the software is up and running to just run.
Fantastic, thank you.
Jazir.
Hey, Sean, thanks again for kind of walking us through your product. And congrats on the Earthshot nomination. Excited to see how that pans out. Looking forward to the next 12 to 18 months. I'd love to kind of get some more thoughts on what your roadmap is for your company.
Yeah, similar to what I've just said, is over the next 12 to 18 months, it's to really push the EFC to get the revenues going. And also part of the thing of that is just the clients to start to recognize who we are, so that when the evaluators they can be driven to the evaluator because they'll already have that relationship. But that 12 to 18 months is essentially build the reputation, get the EFC, get the revenues flowing, and focus on the software development of the evaluator and actually also the biodiversity database, so that we can hit the road running as soon as people have to start doing things.
Absolutely makes sense. Well, thanks again, and good luck on the Earthshot journey.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jazir. Zuba.
Hi. May I call you Dr. Shana?
Unfortunately, not a doctor yet. Not a doctor yet.
I'm sure with 3 masters, it converts to a PhD, no? Okay. But thank you for the presentation. Very clear what you do. And it does give a lot of background to why this, as a software, as a service platform, can be super disruptive. And I love that. We're just going to say, and I'm sure you know this, biodiversity is a huge part of COP. So if it's not on your radar, you probably want to.
I desperately want to get to Egypt. I was actually speaking to someone yesterday who said she wants to try get me onto her panel with her at COP27.
I think that would help with some of the PR that could take your company from where it is, just making it more visible, and as well as the shortlist for the Earthshot Prize. My question is more around the team. Obviously, it's a super diverse team. I just wanted to understand a little bit more about how you guys all came together. It's quite a mix of talent and individuals.
Well, I'm going to say something a bit controversial, and I don't intend to offend anyone, but I actually took advantage of COVID because we literally started doing this at the very start of COVID. So I come with the background, and this has been like my labor of love for 17 years. And this is why I kept doing the masters after masters after masters, to get the knowledge and understanding of what we can do, what we can't do, and understand what everyone around me is doing. So essentially, originally it was about bringing in some friends. So the CFO, for example, I went to university, so I've known him over half my life. He's the only person I trust with my money. So that's always a positive thing. My CMO is friends. The CTO is a friend. When it came to the rest of the team, our designer is also a friend of ours. Our environmental valuation manager, I found her actually through a freelance site, and I was very fortunate to find her. And when we started, she's like, this is never going to happen. When we finished our first valuation, it was like, I can't believe we can actually do this. Then I've got a data scientist, biologist from Venezuela. Found him through the same freelance site. Our valuation manager has been with us now 2 years, just over 2 years. He's been with us for about 6 months. We've got our financial economist from Morocco. He's been with us. We literally celebrated his 1-year anniversary today, actually also through the same platform. So we've had some bad luck through the platform, but we found some real gems on there. And our machine learning guy is from Egypt, and he actually came to me and approached me and said, I love what you're doing. Can I please be involved?
Fantastic. No, it's great product, great vision. Looking forward to the next steps. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zubair. Gabriel, if you want to close this.
Yeah, I'll try to make it short. Thank you very much for the presentation. Very interesting product. So I got the short-term vision. I was just a little bit curious if you could expand like the long-term vision, like where you want to be, and how do you place yourself?
Well, the way people have described me is that we are the company that all companies will fear, because of we can hold every company accountable for their actions. So our long-term goal, essentially, and I'll use these terms just because it's a good sort of analogy of what we see it as. We plan to become the Bloomberg of biodiversity for the database. There is no centralized database for biodiversity. We are collecting the data from all over, and we see that as being one of our key things to actually build a central database that people can access, they can upload the data to, and they can use it for analysis. That then allows us to do the valuations. We're targeting is I estimate just on current capacity, we can do 75,000 valuations a year. I believe it's going to have to be much more, because the way I see it is essentially you've got, even in America, there's one company with 176 sites. Each site has a biodiversity buffer zone. If we were to value even 10 species at each site, that's almost 2,000 species. Think about how many mining companies there are, shipping companies, there are agricultural companies, real estate companies. If you're to do just 10 species for one site each, you're probably getting close to 1 million valuations a year. That's the sort of scale that's the big goal. And effectively, once we build to that, we can start to introduce that financial instrument. It is more of a traditional asset class that people are aware of, they're used to, and we are able to put a price to the underlying asset, which nobody's been able to do before. And effectively, it's more traditional than the tokens, it's more traditional than the biodiversity credits, but those two ones also, they're actually the people who are coming to us because they don't know how to price their underlying assets. At the moment, we literally are the only people who are valuing biodiversity. So for us, we've been told we're 5 years ahead of anyone else even considering this market, and we basically want to just be there before anyone else. And as people start even thinking of it, to be out there already, and to go to people like your large accounting firms, your legal companies, say to them, you want to add the extra service for your clients to do reporting on biodiversity and impact, tap into us, you can use our system and you can charge it out. In that way, literally the world is our market, all the way down to the ultimate is the private level, where we can say to somebody, you have a natural garden, this is the value of your natural garden, go tell social media how great you are, tell social media how much value you're creating for society, economy, and the environment. Your neighbor sees that, or your friend sees that, and there starts the whole competition. And in that way, you actually start to drive a private conservation effort, which is my philosophy is, you cannot change human nature. So you need to use human nature to help nature.
Very interesting. Thank you very much. Looking forward to see how it goes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you so much. Let me go to the next one. Delbert Packer. Delbert, Basil Green Food, please.
I'm Delbert. I'm from Basil Green Foods. So what Basil Green Foods that is that we provide quality, wholesome quality foods to our consumers. And this one we are providing what we call the bee protein. So it is estimated that about 1 billion people suffer from protein deficiency. And the problem is most severe in Central Africa, South Asia, where it is about 30% of children consume too little protein. And also the expansion in the world's meat sector has slowed down due to the market disruption by the global pandemic. That is a COVID-19. So about 1.7% from 2019's total of the meat market had dropped. So here we have our bee protein, which is the mature palm weevil larvae. Then we see is there when it's the larvae itself ready for consumption. Then we have the protein comparison. So we have the fish meal, we have the meat, we have the soya, we have the palm weevil larvae. And we can compare them as looking at their crude protein, their amino acid profile, and their price per unit. So looking at fish meal, we can see that fish meal has the highest crude protein levels. Yes, and followed by the meat, which is 52%, and soya bean, which is averagely 49%. And we have the palm weevil larvae, which is 66%. So looking at the amino acid, we see that the fish meal and the palm weevil larvae top most on the amino acid profile. But the prices for the fish meal, that is $3.97 per kilo, is quite on the high as compared to the palm weevil larvae. And our market share globally is about $20.47 billion. And looking at Africa itself, we see that it will be about $1.94 billion. But we decided to take a 5% market share, which is $97 million. So looking at our competitor analysis, we have the Akokone House, the West African Feeds, and the Basil Green Foods, all based in Ghana. And what makes us stand out is that we have a great team. Myself, I'm a co-founder of another company that grows insects for the poultry industry. And together with my partner, she is also a seasoned accountant, which also keep the books. And we have technical backstop from an entomologist and also an agribusiness specialist. So our value proposition is that looking at the bee protein, that is a palm weevil, it is available all year round. And it is an easy way of farming. Anyone can do it with a DIY method. And also, even under lockdown, it can be produced because every household can be trained or taught how to produce this protein. So looking at our impact, the impact is no poverty because household can be able to sell the excess protein meal that they have as an extra income. And the second impact is that it's zero hunger. Every household will get to enjoy a balanced meal. And also it reduces the overdependence on animal, fish, and plant protein on the planet. Looking at our scalability model, we can be able to train interested ones to produce and sell with a set out SOPs, and we can be able to build hotspot processing factories where those who are being trained can also process this palm weevil larvae, be packaged and exported, or even sold in supermarkets in the urban or the city areas. So we have our team, this is our seasoned financial lead, and also the marketing lead, and also that is Delbert, that is me. also a co-founder and also operations and tech lead. Yes. So this is what we are. Thank you.
All right. Gabriel.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. Thank you very much, Delbert, for the presentation. I have a couple of questions. First of all, are you guys the only ones doing this? So who else is producing this?
So do you mean in Ghana or
in general? So in your target market, and then you can
okay,
generalize.
Yeah. So
I have no idea.
So we have the Apokono House, which is based in Ghana. We have the West African feeds. They also do it. So we are the only 3 people producing this in Ghana here. Yeah.
And how do you compare yourselves with them?
Yes. So for us, we have great technical backstop, seasoned entomologists, and also we have myself, because I am also an R&D lead, another company that is Project Feed, where we use the black soldier fly to produce poultry feed. So when it comes to insect rearing and the future it holds, we have a great team.
Okay, thank you. And then, for what I understood, you have a very you mentioned that you'll be able to help the community by them producing, and the excess of what they produce, you guys will be able to resell, right? How prevalent is palm weevil farming?
Yes. So palm weevil farming is actually something that is not new, because what happens is that it naturally grows from the palm tree. But what we have done is that we are able to help people to cultivate it. So when we train each householder, the householder can be able to do it on themselves, even under lockdown. And that is very essential to the contribution of the daily balanced meal requirement.
Perfectly understood. No, just the last question, because I'm not sure if maybe I didn't catch it. Are you raising, or will you be fundraising soon?
Yes, we are actually raising.
And how much are you raising?
We are looking at $1 million to kickstart.
All right. I think for me, this is it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gabriel.
Thank you.
Jasil.
Thanks for kind of walking us through the work that you do. For me, I'm also based in Accra, Ghana myself, and I've worked with a few different insect feed companies, both in West and East Africa. So I guess my main question to you is, there's quite a few of these opportunities. I myself have worked with funding for one of your competitors before in the past. But I'd like to understand how is Bezel Green Foods positioning itself to take market share or to achieve adoption in the Ghanaian community with insect feed specifically?
Yes. So how we want to position ourselves is that we want to empower the community, because when we train these householders, in the long run, they become indebted to us. So when we set up these pocket factories, they'll be willing to come back and also work for us. It is better than to invest a lot in a factory that a lot of people don't know about. So we are creating this awareness first. When they get interested, it will be easy for them to work for us and to even expand.
Makes sense. And I guess is that the differentiator between you and like a West African feeds, for example?
Exactly. That is what this differentiates the social impact.
Okay. Perfect. That's all for me, Max. Thank you, Delbert, for taking time to pitch to us today.
Thank you, Jasil. Claire, do you want to ask something?
Yeah, I think just the final one from me really is just in terms of what product, I guess, how you productize your solution. Are you selling, farms into the community? Do you anticipate taking it further down to provide sort of end products to consumers? What does that journey look like now and in future?
Yes, so when we talk about farming, it's about the rearing of the larvae. So what we do is that the process of rearing or growing that is what we term as farming. But the issue is that we are not able to meet the daily protein requirement. One, because of price hikes in the protein, and also the pandemic, it has caused a serious issue globally. So ask yourself, what about those in the rural areas? How can they have access to these meats that are not even able to be exported on seas by means of logistics problems? So that's where we come in. So if these people are even able to grow this palm larvae in excess to the extent that they can service their household, they can even sell off the excess that they have to the other communities or even supermarkets.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Zuben.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. A quick one in terms of your current revenue. What does that look like?
Yes, so our revenue would be in the long term. That is when we scale up. But as it stands now, it is a social impact project. So when we set up these factories and we begin to sell off these palm, the protein, that is the palm we will have to supermarkets and also to, other urban areas or even exports, that is to other countries. That is where the real revenue begins to show.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Delbert. There is one question, very, very straightforward. It is tasty or not? From the attendees.
It is very tasty and enjoyable, I bet you.
Thank you, Delbert. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Let me move to the next one. Demi Skooks. Demi, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Demi Shriyombo. Yes, so I'm the founder of Skooks, and it's basically an e-learning platform focused on providing African children with access to 21st century skills. 67% of jobs have changed by the age of technology that we live in. But one thing that has not changed, if you all agree with me, is the education system, especially here in Nigeria and also Africa at large. And we have over 160 million kids that might not fit into the job ecosystem in the next 10 years, tripling the unemployment rate. But this is not the case for our child, Mide, who is a 16-year-old boy that had no knowledge of technology because his school had limited resources. Now, Skooks introduced Mide to graphics design. He became very passionate and he continued to learn more on the Skooks platform. Mide is now in his second year in university, and he has transitioned into UI UX design professionally. Hence, when he's done with school, he has about 2 years plus of experience and he can perfectly fit into the job ecosystem. Now, if we're actually looking to solve the rate of unemployment in the country, we need to start from the very foundation, and which I term our primary and secondary schools, and we need to expose them to 21st century skills. Skooks is an online learning community enabling African kids to develop their technology and their creative skills at a young age. And we're targeting kids aged 5 to 18 years that are looking to learn technology skills, and we'll be reaching them through their schools, that's our B2B model, and also through their parents. Our immediate target markets are 49 million Nigerians who are middle and upper class income earners, as well as 80,000 private schools that have about an average of 5 million students. Looking at the global edtech market, it's valued at 106 billion as of 2021, and while that of Africa is valued at $2.2 billion. And Skooks is looking at targeting 1% of that to start with. The Skooks charges a monthly subscription of $5 and $8 for individual parents monthly, and then $12 per student per term for schools. And in the space of 8 months, we've moved from being just an idea to having 428 registered students and a revenue of $224. In October last year, we won the Ingenie Africa EdTech Virtual Bootcamp, and we also won the STEMI in Africa Accelerator Program. And in December last year, we won the Lagos Small Business Pitching Competition, which came with a 1 million naira grant. Now, to our competitive advantage. We understand that while there are several market players trying to solve online education, schools having specialized courses that are focused on technology and creative skills. And we're also targeting African kids using our localized teaching styles. That gives us a huge advantage over similar brands and also other competitors. Our financials, by reaching 100 schools in 2020, and each school having an average of 300 students, our annual turnover stands at $700,000, which increases progressively. Our team is made up of 9 individuals, myself, a 25 under 25 UI UX award-winning professional, and I've built numerous digital products across several companies. Our team has individuals with combined experience of over 25 years in software development, content creation, marketing, and finance. And the company is looking to raise $100,000 in angel and pre-seed stage capital at a post-money valuation cap of $1 million through SAFE. While a huge percentage of this goes into ramping up products and technology and as well our content, the other 35% goes into building our community and team. And generally, our goal at Scoops is to reach out to millions of middays out there across Nigeria and Africa at large, and possibly change their lives. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Dana. Zuber, would you like?
Ekeshe, thank you so much. Great presentation and a very relevant solution. I was going to ask, I mean, you've already shared a little bit about your business model, but just expanding on that a little bit more and future revenue streams, if you could, please.
All right, thank you very much for that question. So in terms of how we make money, so we have a subscription model. So individuals, we have the silver plan, the gold plan, and the enterprise plan, where parents pay $5 monthly to access some of our introductory courses. And some parents also pay $8 monthly to access like the high level courses as well. And for schools, we have a $12 plan per term for them. A term is normally 3 to 4 months for schools. So per student per term, they pay $12. Apart from the subscription model, some individuals can also decide to buy courses one-off. So we also give them that opportunity to do so. And lastly, we have outsourcing of teachers. Some schools need some of our instructors to come to their school physically, like to have blended learning. So also give them the opportunity to request for physical instructors as well. So that is another source of revenue we're looking at.
And what are your thoughts on solutions or platforms such as Bridges Academy, please?
Yes, so Bridges Academy, I'm not sure I've looked into them before. Can you give me a brief?
It's a PE-backed edtech platform that's mostly in East Africa, but it provides a portal to allow you to more or less put education in a can for schools and learning centers in more remote areas. But it's fine. I guess the question would be more around your competition. Who do you see as primary competition, and how do you? I mean, you've listed OutSchool, ULesson, ID Tech, and how do you see yourself differentiating?
Okay, how we're different from our competitors generally is we are focused on 21st century skills, which include technology courses and creative courses. Your lesson, for instance, is focused on academic courses, right? So the English, the maths, we understand that schools are taking care of that, but we want to ensure that kids have like, so outside of that traditional classroom learning, they are exposed to the necessary skills they need to get jobs in the future.
Okay, gotcha. So more non-core, vocational and job-based training.
Yes.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Zube. Claire.
Yeah, I think that was going to be my main question, was just how you see yourself differentiating in the market, but you covered that perfectly. So yeah, nothing else from my side.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Gabriel.
Yeah, thanks. I just have a quick one around like the product roadmap and how it looks like in the next 12 to 18 months. How does the product look like now? And what further developments do you feel like are needed?
All right, thank you very much for that question. So in terms of roadmap, so right now we already have our working platform. So you can go to the website right now and register as a student and start learning. We have about 15 courses uploaded right now. So down the line, we look at having at least 1,000 courses, right? Through those we record in-house and also through those we collaborate with and get courses from external sources. We also look at our accreditation, so being able to accredit our courses by Google or the Microsoft or the IBM or the Oracle, yes. And lastly, we look at developing our mobile app. So right now we are a web-based platform, so we want to be more mobile and more accessible and giving even those in the rural areas the opportunity to be able to access some of these courses on the go.
All right, perfectly understood. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gabriel. José, would you like to close?
Absolutely, I would love to. Damilola, thanks for pitching. Love the work you all are doing at Skooks. I think it's a very interesting solution, especially considering how fragmented the private school market is in West Africa. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. So I just have a few quick questions, if you don't mind. My very first one is, so with regards to Skooks, and you shared a bit about your roadmap and where you guys are looking to go, I'd love to know what keeps you up at night about executing the Skooks vision?
Okay, I think a major challenge would be, okay, how do we create a safe and secure space for children? We understand that the children's space is very delicate, so how to ensure that all the content and everything coming to the platform is well secured for children and use of technology. That's one. Secondly, would be in terms of market penetration. How exactly do we penetrate the market? So we've been doing a lot of research as to, okay, how can we own this space, right? So that's one other thing that keeps us up at night. And lastly, I would say the third thing would be in terms of how can we continue generating valuable content that people can keep watching. We're trying to explore like the Netflix model of being to buy out courses from like people and all of those things. But yes, those are like different things we're still brainstorming about and creating structures around.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so you actually kind of touched on my next question, which is around the courses. I'd love to understand a bit, how are you creating and building courses currently? I know you talked about acquisition in the future, but currently, I'd love to know like how are you building courses, and also how frequently are you adding courses to the platform?
All right, great question. On a weekly basis, we add about 4 courses to the platform if we have all our instructors on deck. So we have internal instructors that record courses for us, and we constantly edit in. And recently, we just pull up an opportunity for external instructors to also come join us. So for external instructors, what we did is we created a model whereby we have a revenue share. So 30% of every revenue or paying revenue coming into your courses goes to that external instructor, just like the skill share model. Yes. So with that, we don't get to burn money in creating those courses. So we only spend money when someone buys that course.
Absolutely interesting. Love it. Love it. And I guess that leads me to my final question. Knowing in your kind of trajectory, you mentioned that you started 8 months ago and you won the LSBS grant. With regards to this round, I have a twofold question. One, I'd love to come get an idea of the profile of investors, if any, that are in schools now. And the second question is, what kind of value are you looking for your future investors to provide to you?
All right, very great question. So as at the moment, apart from our grants, we've been bootstrapping, and we also took a soft loan from a cooperative here in Nigeria. So we'll be running on that, using that to build our existing platform. So we don't have any current investor at the moment. We have a couple angel investors that have showed reasonable interest, and we're still discussing. And now, in terms of what value are we looking at our investors to provide? Typically, someone interested in the future of work, in the education space, and in children at large, and someone that can not only just invest money, but invest time, invest resources, and people to work with us.
Understood. Okay, that is super helpful. And I think those are all my questions, but I'd love to keep this conversation going offline, if that's okay. I've messaged you on LinkedIn, so we should have a long conversation.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thanks, Max.
Thank you so much. We move to the next one. Now we go different because we are moving to a no-profit. We normally do not do no-profit for pitch day, but today there's an exception for Isaac. I really love kids, so for me, I want to close with this one. Isaac, please. Goblis Foundation, all you.
Thank you, Max. Thank you all. Yeah, so mine is a little bit different. Yeah, we at Goblis Foundation, generally we are empowering the next generation of leaders who are the young people. And generally what we do is identify creative solutions to local problems. You find that there are young people from very underserved communities who have great ideas, but they don't know how to actualize them. Yes, they are well educated, but where do they begin? So we support young people between the ages of 18 to 35. And the main problems that we are solving, unemployment, over 800,000 young people finish education yearly, and only 50,000 get to be employed. So the rest amount to unemployed, currently at 2.3 million, and in Kenya we are just about 48 million. Climate change, 75% of Kenyans live in rural areas, so this directly affects them. Lack of capital, a young person has cleared high school and then they need capital. They go to a bank, they are told, hey, we need, you must have a banking history. They don't have. And also if they push further, they are told, okay, you need security. So they don't have security, which is collateral. And also lack of mentorship, especially our education system, although the government is trying to change now, although it will take time, has been persisting on people learning to be employed instead of becoming innovators. So therefore, actually, this is one of the main challenges which has mounted onto the unemployed. So the solutions, what we are offering, we have incubation, where we identify these ideas until traction is gained. And then we also have an acceleration program, especially to those ideas that might become the next unicorn, and of course, extension support. And to be able to achieve that, we have our core strategies. The first, of course, we align ourselves to the global goals, 1, 5, 8, 9, 10, and 13. And the other strategy, it's our core pillars. We have 3 core pillars. One is GKIMO Academy, which is a virtual innovation management system. This is just like any other learning management system, but it has additional tools where impact investors can be able to track, the progress right from inception, right from ideation, product development, and so forth and so forth. And then now, in terms of access to capital, we have Kenya, which is an online peer-to-peer crowdfunding platform where they can be able to get, funds from friends, family members, and from our network, for the pre-seed to be able to kickstart their ideas. And now we have Bomani Innovation Hub. Bomani Innovation Hub, it's a physical social change workshop, and this is where the acceleration begins. And so the beneficiaries must go through GKIMO Academy for mentorship for about 4 months, where now they fundraise from Kenya, and then from there, the best position to perform, they apply to join the Bomani Innovation Hub. And now this is where impact investors comes in. So what is impact investing? So we have a program for impact investors to be able to invest and support these underserved social entrepreneurs. And the ways to invest for impact investors, it's one way, it's equity investment. An impact investor can invest up to 20% in exchange for equity, but not more than that. There are 2 reasons. One, being into investment, to protect the investment. And the second is we want to protect these young people, these underserved young people, to continue owning their companies. The second is a consolidated fund where impact investors can decide to invest funds into a pool of a consolidated fund, and then we decide where to invest on their behalf. Also, we have impact bonds. We have the medium and long term, where investors can get returns. And also, we have program-related investments. These are low-cost loans where impact investors can lend us, low-cost, facilities where we in turn lend to these impact investors, social entrepreneurs. Sorry. So forth. What we have been able to achieve, we find that we usually hold 1-day training events in partnership with the community-based organizations. We have been able to train 12,762 youth in 108 events, where 802 are women, 4,660 are men. And we have been able to kickstart 127 social enterprises that since 2018. 111 have been incubated, and of course those that have been accelerated are 16. This was affected because of COVID, since it is more physical. And of course we usually help to support children, especially for those single parents, women, so that they can concentrate on growing their social enterprises. Instead of just staying home and taking care of children, they get that assistance to be at par with their fellow, young social entrepreneurs. So in terms of access to capital, so in terms of the Kenya where they fundraise, we have been able to, and also grants, we have been able to spend 105,000 USD. Equity investments from impact investors so far 157,000 USD, and also loans that have been issued from our impact investors, it's 76,000 USD so far. So generally, impact investment summary, it's more of in-house arrangements because you find impact investors have different interests. So we don't charge impact investors to invest. What we usually do is invite them to do a donation, whatever they feel like. Yeah, because our interest is them investing for social impact. What happens is in those social enterprises, we usually take 5% of equity, for the sustainability purposes, all those that are generated. So that is it. Actually, the photo that you see, this is just a small section of our Boman Innovation Hub where acceleration takes place. Yeah, thank you for listening. That is it.
Thank you very much, Isaac. If Gabriel and Nzube want to ask some things.
Yeah, I was just going to say I don't have any questions. Thank you very much, Isaac, and congratulations for what you're doing, and all the best.
Thank you.
I was going to say, with the work you're doing, if you feel there might be synergies with the Africa Center, then please do drop me a line. The Africa Center is a charity based here in London. There's a New York Africa Center as well. It's a different entity, different charity, but we have a relationship with them. I'm a trustee at the Africa Center here in London. And a lot of the work we do centers around the things you've talked about. So we're all about educating on, advocating for, and connecting to Africa and its diaspora. And we have 5 pillars that, focus on like the education, the thought leadership, entrepreneurship, and a couple of others. So it'd be good to see if there's any synergy, and I'm happy to connect you with the management team to follow up on that. I don't have any other specific questions on this because I apart from the charitable work I do as a trustee, I haven't got any other active engagements in this space.
Absolutely, that would be great, and we are very open to collaborative partnerships.
Thank you so much, Isaac. Thank you, Gabriel. Thank you, Zube. The others had to go, and I really thank you to everyone, panelists, attendees, of course, founders, and hope to see you again in June when we have another panel discussion, the 2nd of June, and the pitch editor. Thank you again, and see you next time. Thank you.